Okay, so it's time for video number 2. Let's talk a little bit about the van I purchased. Now, when I was researching vans, the first thing I want to call out is a reference to a couple of YouTubers called Trent and Ali. I'll put a link to their channel in the description. I found this their sort of overview of the vans to be the most helpful. They're also the very first YouTubers that I started following in my research for this activity, and they've been pretty helpful in reviewing the material and as well as being entertaining. They've moved on to vans, to building a house, but I still recommend their channel for information on van life and some of the topics in building a van. Now, when I was researching vans, in North America, there tends to be 3 classes of vans that most people are considering for van conversions. Those are the Mercedes Sprinter, the Dodge ProMaster, and the Ford Transit. Now, what makes these vans somewhat unique is the idea of a high roof, the idea that you can stand up inside the van. Personally, the idea of crouching over on a daily basis in the van just was a non-starter for me. Had to have a high roof in mind. There really are just these 3 types of vans in the market, although I'm sure there's always exceptions. Now, the most popular vans that seem to be used are the Sprinter and the ProMaster. The Ford Transit, I've seen a few videos using, but it doesn't seem to be at the same popularity of the ProMaster and the Sprinter. The difference from what I saw between the 3 is the Sprinter is by far and away the biggest, the ProMaster was the widest, and the Ford Transit provided the most headroom. So at a high level, that's kind of how these things tend to be differentiated. The Sprinter is a European make, so finding parts it's not, and servicing is a little bit more expensive, reportedly, than the other 2 brands. And the price of the van itself tends to be a little bit more expensive, but it also tends to hold its value more. And it is the longest of the vans. The ProMaster, as I said before, is the widest. It's 74 inches wide, which means people that are really under 6 feet can sleep crosswise. And sleeping crosswise instead of lengthwise buys you a lot of space. Then the Ford Transit gives you the highest headroom. So if you were 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", that sort of things, you're pretty much obligated to get into the Ford Transit because the other vans you'll be bumping your head all the time. Okay, now if my video editing skills work correctly, we'll cut away to some shots of the van arriving and sort of the initial impressions when it got here. Then I'll take you on a quick tour and talk about on some of the lower level detail things that drove me to choose the ProMaster, and I'll talk a little bit about the buying process that went into buying and getting the vehicle. As far over to the right as you can. That far more. Okay, that's good. I'll take it from there. Just one key?
Yeah, one key.
One key? Do you need me to sign anything?
That is.
It is a van. what are those bins for?
I got to take them out.
Oh my God. It looks like
About the process in which I purchased the vehicle. For about 6 weeks, I was looking in the market for a ProMaster, and they're very popular right now. And being that they're so popular, they're hard to find. Now, originally I started with the idea of getting a used vehicle as part of the purchase. But the reality is there's just not a lot of them on the market. And the other thing is I'm not really in a position to do a lot of mechanical fixing. So I had pretty much decided that I would be getting a new vehicle. And it really looked like the price was going to be around 45, 46 plus tax. I went to my controller, which is of course my wife, and the point of view she expressed was we've never bought new vehicles in our life. We've always bought a year or 2 year old because we just don't want to, we're not vehicle people, and we don't want to see that big price drop. And her comment was something about dead bodies and the grave never being found if the first vehicle we bought new was going to be this van. So I had to rethink my approach on purchasing the vehicle. About that time, I was fortunate enough to see a vehicle come on the market a couple hundred miles away that seemed to meet the bill. It was this is a 2018 model with about 40,000 miles on it, and I was able to essentially buy it sight unseen. I had it taken to a local mechanic shop for an inspection. Everything seemed to go well on that, and then I ordered it, and it was delivered. So it was a relatively painless process, and I ended up spending about $12,000–13,000 less than I would have spent if I bought it brand new. Now, some of the features of the vehicle that are that were attractive to me beyond what I said earlier about being able to sleep sideways and being a domestic car. The first thing is, if we look at the floor here, a lot of straight lines, right? And being that it's a lot of straight lines, putting in the subfloor and setting up essentially the finished product, I'm not going to have to do a lot of custom cuts. Along with that, vertically the sidewalls are pretty straight up and down. There's a little bit of curve, but much less than you see, for example, in the Dodge, or sorry, in the Mercedes Sprinter, which is another very good thing that make it easier to build. And the last thing I wanted to comment on was all the cable runs. So if we look down here at the bottom, where those semi-triangles are, that's a cable run front to back. If you look at right about midways, that's an empty wire chase as well. And then at the top, we've got a wire chase that goes all the way down. Because of that, it's going to be a lot simpler to string the numerous electrical and other wires in the vehicle. And again, when you look at the Sprinter, that seems a lot more challenging. Not much to say about the cab. I hope you enjoyed this material, and feel free to comment or send me any questions you might have.